Hello and welcome to the 88th episode of Rambling Weekly. We're going to, the title of the episode is going to talk about a just world and how perceptions are kind of doing us in. But first, we're going to, how's everybody doing? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing another one of these through the power of just Audacity and throwing up some pictures and stuff. Actually, no, I lied. I'm not going to do the picture thing. What I'll do is I'll put up some footage from playing Genealogy of the Holy War that I'm going to be using for the review that I've written. I haven't recorded anything yet for it, but I've got it written out and stuff, so hopefully I'll have that next, I don't want to say week, but let's say 2 weeks. Let's get it, let's get 2 weeks in. So, but yeah, how's everybody doing? I hope you're doing well. I've been fairly good, question mark. It wasn't nearly as busy this past week as I've been the last few. I think it's just because I finally have a full weekend to not have to be going to like a wedding or for somebody's birthday or reunions and all that sort of stuff. So I got a day where I was just super duper lazy, and then I tried to do that for myself, is like every week give myself one day where I'll just be like, I'm not going to do anything. I'll just kind of veg out. Doesn't always work. Sometimes I do end up doing something. Nothing too out of the ordinary or anything, but yeah, a little bit of stuff here and there. So I had that yesterday because I'm recording this now for this is part of why I've kind of switched to doing these recordings back to the old style of just the audio, not picture of me, because I'm recording this at 10:52 a.m. July 7th. Yeah, that's right. It's it's a little close for comfort, but this is kind of where I'm at with things at the moment. So yeah, I had that yesterday, and so today it's a little bit more productive, going around doing cleaning and get some cleaning done. I'm going to be doing more writing. I think part of my problem with part 2 so far has that I haven't gotten into a good flow with it, as I've had notes for it, but I've not had really good notes in the sense of, hey, this is what I've got going on for the city and stuff that this chapter's taking place in. I have people and stuff, but kind of like what I did with Sudraba, I had stuff kind of marked out for it and whatnot that, yeah, it might not even come up in the story, but at least I know it, which might sound kind of weird, might sound a little bit creatively exhaustive, which it can be, but I don't know, it helps because there's times where in just making the creation of something else that's not necessarily in the story, but it's supported by it helps kind of make more sense, and it's easier for me to flow. So I put together what the city looks like, and some odds and ends, like, this district, and whatnot. So probably should have done that before I started writing, but I was like, I'm gonna jump into it, and then I'm like, well, shoot, I kind of need to pull back for a moment. Whoopsie poopsie whoopsie. So yeah, it was good to do that, because in also doing that, it helps kind of keep the ball rolling for writing and stuff. But that, and then a buddy of mine and I have been playing War Tales, and I really like that game. I'm really enjoying it. I'm only playing it on experienced right now, and it's a little too easy. So I might have to kick up the difficulty. So I'm a little hesitant, but also interested in trying the harder difficulties, where it's like, oh, you lost a unit, and I wonder if in doing that it wouldn't snowball into like a oh, you've lost a character, it's a little bit tough and you've made it a little bit worse on yourself, and then all of a sudden, oh well, you've lost another character and now you're quickly reaching critical failure. And I don't know how that would feel, because I feel like XCOM has that, the first one, because that's the one I've really played of the two newer games of it. And the first one, it felt like that. It's like if you start losing units as you're going along, you're going to be kind of in a pickle. And when you have things that miss at 80%, 40% of the time, it can get kind of annoying, kind of concerning. But that is the joys of that sort of thing, I guess. Anything else that I've played? I've been still continuing with the Dark Souls, just not nearly as much. I kind of put it off to the side, and I think I've played maybe about like 2-3 hours or so this past week. Nothing eventful so far on that. I thought I had a copy of the Peloponnesian War by Thucydides, and so couldn't find it, because I was actually going to use a quote from it for last episode, and I was just like, okay, so I got a new copy. I got the landmark copy of it, the landmark version by Strassler, like the landmark Thucydides. And so I've been starting to read up on that and stuff, because that's always interesting, I think, to brush up on that sort of stuff. So, but that is it on that front. So we're going to get into the topic now. Like the previous episode, there's just going to be an outro. I figure that'd be we kind of truncated a little bit and stuff, and maybe I'll put in an intro moving forward. This way, it's I kind of thought about it. I was like, you have that little quick intro, and then all of a sudden it's like 10-15 seconds, and then there's a minute and so of music and stuff. So I was like, let's switch it up a little bit. So there might not even be an intro. It might just go into it. And if there ends up being an intro, it might just be like a few seconds. Right? Yeah. So, topic for the day is a just world. And it was something that kind of sprung up in mind as I had something on in the background as I was working. I think it was when I was working. And it is just how our perceptions, and that in the sense of we tend to have this idea that good people and good acts will ultimately receive good in return. And a lot of times when that isn't met, there's that jaded attitude and then just this kind of give up sort of thing. However, I also want to tag in there something that we tend to do a lot of, and that is that if something is beautiful, something is attractive, it doesn't necessarily have to mean in a lustful sense, but just as there's like something that catches the eye, like a pizza pie, that's amore, and how we consider that good. It's just an automatic good, and how that sort of mentality is destroying us. Because I think if we go that route, if we think, oh, this is what we consider good, this is, and in that case, everything that derives from good or springs forth from the good source is good in itself, or can be kind of washed away as well. That can be excused. We tend to do that a lot. I think of like a little toddler who does something a little cheeky, like, oh, they're just a toddler and whatnot, but they're they're you have the people who think that they're nothing but little hell spawns. But I think that's a little bit of a grotesque way to go about thinking about it. I think it's a very unfortunate way to think about children, and highlights more of how though somebody who would think like that, it really is painting a picture of that person much more than than a toddler. Yeah, but yeah, I think that this attitude, this equation that, if we think that we're a good person, and this works doubly in the negative, so if we don't think we're a good person, and when bad things happen, oh, well, that's justified. That makes sense. We deserved it. I think then there's this the hero complex, that we have a bad rash of, it's a very ubiquitous thought throughout the U.S. of people who consider themselves the hero. I know there's the, oh, you're the hero of your own story sort of thing, but that gets in. I mean, I think what should be reeled back, even then, it's still a little bit of a concern, is that you're the protagonist of your story. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're a hero. Protagonist at least makes it a little bit more neutral, because there could be a very heinous, very awful protagonist, and then the antagonist is actually the quote-unquote good thing, and if it's rebelling against it, then anyway, I think with the hero complex, what ends up happening is we have a lot of people thinking, oh, well, I'm good, and therefore when I try to do the good things, that everything that I try to do that is good needs to be done. It needs to be made possible. So I will see it. So they are now justifying all their actions, because the ends justify the means and stuff like that. And that, because I think when somebody gets to that point of the ends justify the means, they've come to consider that, what is the point of being good if it doesn't lead to more good? And to me, that is a very wrong way of looking at it. A very understandable way of looking at it, but it's a very wrong way to look at it. Because if you are asking why do good when it does not work out, if it blows up in your face, if it is if it just ends in just trouble, why do the good in the first place? Then that's hinting towards somebody who thinks that good births more good kind of thing, and that is not what's that? Birth begets birth. Birth. Good begets birth. Good. There we go. That's what I was kind of trying to get out of that. But and that's not, like, if that was the case, it would be certainly easier to do good. But I don't know. It's kind of like, why do that good thing unless I'm going to get a kickback in return? And that to me is that line of thinking is what I kind of hear when somebody says, why be good if it doesn't get, if no good kind of comes out of it, sort of thing. And that you get into, I think that skews into the nihilism idea, where it's you gotta, oh, we're gonna die, so why do anything? Well, it's because you're trying to trying to do more, like, you know, it's kind of like if it's a big ocean that we're all a part of, that little ripple, not necessarily like butterfly wings, but that little ripple might not mean much of anything, but if you can get others around you to continue the ripple, to make it more, that's when it ends up doing more, instead of just simply, because we're so fragmented and everything that it is not an easy task to all lift up, get everybody to be a part of it, and that sense of connectedness being the rising tide to raise all ships. With as much fragmentation as there is, that's not an easy thing to do. You can certainly see pockets of it with bigger groups of people doing this, that, and the other, but it is not an easy thing to conceptualize a good being done by a whole group to another, because then you get into, was it really good? Well, yeah, it's kind of like when somebody spoils their child, right? And you see somebody just constantly giving more and more and more to the child, so the child doesn't really grow to understand, maybe not understand, but grow to, I guess, expect that sometimes you just don't get everything you want, that there are things that that are just not feasible for one reason or the other. It doesn't create this long chain of uninterrupted I don't want to say hedonistic, but uninterrupted just favors being granted. That you know, so you gotta stand up. You gotta push them out the door. Go on, fly, little birdie, fly, kind of thing. And then I think coupling with that is, it's very easy to tell when somebody's never like experienced authority with any sort of sense. So if somebody feels very much like they are justified in their actions because they think that they are good and that they are doing good by whatever means necessary because they are good, you get into a very, very, for lack of a better way to put it, where wrath masquerades around as justice. Somebody who's very wrathful, very controlling. And so these behaviors that are, especially the very controlling, just tightening of things, because I am good and I know what's good, so I need to show you what's good because you're not doing what I want you to do. They consider those behaviors justifiable, and they think that the idea that control is needed to instill the good. So if you don't, for whatever reason, we've kind of got this really bad streak of thinking that to instill good in other people, we need to control them. We have to be able to impress upon them that, you know, this is how it has to be done. And I think it's much like school, where if you're part of public school, yeah, you might get this, where we generally we'll forget the information. It's because it's not important to us for one reason or the other. However, while we may forget the information, the materials covered and whatnot, what we won't forget are the behaviors, and we'll remember those with great clarity. And I think that that's the concerning thing, is when we see somebody who thinks that they are good go in such a maniacal act of just this, yes, I am justified in doing this, because if I am good, then ultimately good should come out, and because I'm the wellspring, we are the wellspring of good, that it should all in the end turn out good, turn out well. And instead, what I think it's doing is it is creating a quite the diorama for people to see, especially as they're growing up, because the issue I think we get into in a generational sense is that, sure, you know, you get a vaporwave. You grew up in a world that no longer exists. That's, yeah, okay, but that's always been the case. It's may not be as a much greater scale as some may consider it now, at least in a global sense. But that's always the case. You never grow up you don't grow up in the same world as your parents or your grandparents, and or your children. It is only in that brief span, very immediate, through your friends, neighbors, family, that sort of thing. So, what the behaviors that they are seeing in this front. Nope, doop. There's my phone, of course, when I'm recording, always with the phone. At least it's in the other room. But that's what they'll see. They won't see what's being considered. They'll be less inclined to think about what's good, and think about more so the behaviors. And for me, I think of just the historical examples. Big one to bring up is the generational tug and pull, the tug of war, push and pull that happens with, like, the Roman things, with Julius Caesar, with Augustus, with Sulla. It's these. They have their own rules, and the rules that they play in change from generation to generation. They change from, however quickly or slowly they do. But they change because of what's going on before them, and they care much less about what happens after, in the sense of after they're gone, as long as they're being, I'm going to be that egotistical to think I could speak for them. But to me, I would say that there's much less thinking about what what goes on after, as opposed to making that indelible mark for others to either take as an example or to rise above. And I just don't think that is being considered at all. Instead, it is, especially like the one phrase that always draws my ire more than anything, is when somebody says one way or the other that they are on the right side of history on things, and that speaks to as if the people ahead of us that down the line will have the same sorts of attitudes and concepts and whatnot as we do, and that's not going to be the case. That'll never be the case. Might they share a lot? Certainly. They could also share very few things. So I think it is very that one. If I'm going to put my chip on what's egotistical, that would be a much more egotistical mark. But that's also the sign of very strong, I think, narcissism, to say that, and having that combined with this mentality of thinking, oh well, I am good, and because I am a good person, I will do the good, and because I'm a good person and I'm doing good, that it'll, in return, all the people after me will understand that. They'll see what the good is, and that they'll continue that chain exactly how it is, and instead of seeing it as good, they'll just see the behaviors, and they'll judge it for themselves one way or the other. Because that's what we do. We might not. We certainly. We might not agree on much of anything. We might agree on a lot, but certainly, if anything, we like to judge each other on a gradient. Less. And I think that's the other thing too. It's less that we have this idea that to judge means to be a verdict that needs to be, like, for lack of a better word, executed, to be to be done, to be wrought, where instead it should just be a, oh, like, this is what I consider, this is what I levy against you, kind of thing. And then you either pay it or you don't. And that's up to you to decide, I think. Anyway, that's what I got for the topic. This really felt like, yes, I felt that this is the spirit of Rambling Weekly. Getting lost in the weeds. Anyways, I'm gonna pause it real quick because I thought I had a quote, but then I remembered I didn't, so I need to find a quote real quick. So pause. All right, time in. So the quote for today is going to be Cervantes. It's totally the pirate from Soul Calibur. No, we're going to go with Miguel de Cervantes. He wrote Don Quixote. And the quote I have here is, "There is no greater folly in the world than for a man to despair." And I'll say it again because I probably butchered it a little bit and just trying to rush it out the door. But there is no greater folly in the world than for a man to despair. And I guess if I was to try to pin that, and sometimes I like to try to make the quotes tie in with the topics, is that the ones who I think get a little too much in their heads that want to do good, do this. They'll despair. They'll lament about things that are far beyond their control and far after their time, and consider that there's no point. And I think that is quite a great folly. That is very foolish, and that, I don't know, it kind of makes me think of people who will make their world smaller and smaller and smaller, cloister and shell up more and more and more, because they just don't want to deal with anything like that. And I think that's foolish and also very disheartening. Yeah, but that's simply my opinion. Yeah. So go out there and make mistakes, get messy, do that sort of thing. Go out there and live. Anyways, that is it for me. Thanks for listening. The outro is going to be, I have it here, I'm going to double check to make certain. It's "See You Again" from the Ys 1 and 2 Eternal unpublished music soundtrack. Excuse me. So I think, if I remember correctly, this came out, the unpublished is the music that they ended up scrapping and not using for Ys Eternal 1 and 2, and that was one of the, I think it was the PC, I don't think they did a PSP version, because they made another, like a different one for the PSP, and they might have had the music on there, but I think the Ys Eternal one was a PC, like a computer version, like a Windows XP, I think, XP, one of those things back in the day. But yeah, so I'll see you again. Thanks for listening, all this sort of fun jazz. Enjoy your day, weekday, weekend, weeknight, and everything in between. I'll see you next week, or at least, you'll hear my voice next week. And take it easy. Bye.